Hi, Charlie. How are you?
And I can't complain. Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from sunny Dublin, Ireland.
I
Except,
I knew that because I could, the accent gave it away.
I know, yeah, and to be honest, Charlie, I'm telling a complete lie. It's not sunny at all.
No, well, listen, I lived in Ireland for until I was about 18,
I was going
and
to ask
so
you about this.
yeah.
That was literally one of my first questions to you. Saying, obviously, not a lot of people know this, but you have quite the relationship with Ireland, don't you?
Yeah, no, I do. I do. It's well, my father still lives there. I was when I was about 5 years old, I moved over to Ireland, and my father's lived in Wicklow for 50 years now,
Yeah.
I went to school in St Gerard's in
Did you?
Bray, and used to play rugby there, and I used to play against. We used to take the bus to Blackrock College to play
That's,
them.
that was my
And
school.
that was your school, Black. Well,
Yeah.
we used to tell them, and it was fucking awful playing them because we're playing you guys because we turn up, and the guys would come running onto the rugby pitch, and I swear to God, you guys were holding kids back years, because they turn up with beards, and just destroy us.
What
It
a
was
small world, eh?
it was a horror. Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
I lived up near. Do you know Roundwood?
Yeah, yeah, I know Roundwood
Right.
well, yeah. Lovely
I
part
live
of the world. It's
I
lovely
live
up near the Sugarloaf, isn't it?
Yeah, you got Ramwood and then Lara. So
Yeah,
if you got Ramwood and Lara, or
yeah.
Lara and sorry, Ramwood and
And
Glendalough.
Glendalough,
Uh, I lived right in the middle of those two.
that's
So
crazy.
you would to get to Glendalough, you'd have to go past my house.
That's crazy. And was it in Ireland where you kind of initially got your kind of, I suppose, fascination and love for motorbikes, or?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I grew up. So I messed around on a little monkey bike with a friend of mine, Jason Connery, and he pushed me, made me push him. It was someone had left the little monkey bike in our barn,
Yeah.
and Jason made me push him around. He finally got it going, and then I had a bit of go in it. But it was only a few years later, when I was about 8 or 9. There was a guy called Tommy Rochford who lives in our village, and he had a Mako 5400, which was at the time that was the bomb. At the time, that was the bike to have. I
Yeah.
mean, I was so jealous. And it was a big 250 thump. It was a big 400 two-stroke thumper. Anyway, I convinced him to give me a go. So he put me on the bike, and I couldn't touch the foot pegs. And so he put it in first gear, and he pushed me off. And I just went round this field until I fell off. And then that was it. I was hooked for life,
You're hooked on it. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I've got to admit,
And I remember, I haven't been back for a while, but it just reminded me of because, you know, how old are you?
I'm 35.
It's only 35, so I'm a little older than you, but
Yeah.
I'm in my mid 50s. But so when I was growing up as a kid, it was all about, the pub life. That was it
Sure,
was all
yeah.
about that. And I mean, we used to go to Johnny Fox's,
Yeah.
and I remember finding myself dancing naked on one of the tables, and I was thrown out
Happens to us
of
all.
and I was thrown out, and my clothes came out with me. And he turned around and he said, "Charlie," he said, "you're banned until tomorrow." And I looked at my watch, and it was 5 to 12, so I got dressed and
Hey.
walked back in again. And he gave me a pint.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I've got to admit. So I've watched The Long Way Down, The Long Way Around, and I haven't seen The Long Way Up yet, but I can't wait to watch it. And I've got to admit, one of the things that really, I think, it captivates the viewers with these shows is you as the viewer nearly feel like you're on the adventure yourself, and I because no one gets to do this, and you're kind of thinking when you're watching it, going, "Geez, will I just give up my job and just go on a motorbike from here to Sydney or from here to wherever?" And I just love that. But like, it must be the most amazing experience, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, when we did Long Way Round, both you and I had never really done a big journey before, and so that was a real sort of learning curve, and it was a crazy adventure. And the same with long, and that was very different because that was, as you got to Kazakhstan and Mongolia and Siberia and Far East Russia, it became less and less and less people. There wasn't anyone around really. So it was very different. Then when we went down through Africa, there's just people everywhere,
Yeah.
and for the top of Africa to the middle to the southern Africa, the cultures and how people live and everything is just so diverse and so different. And then when we did, when we decided to do Long Way Up, I mean, that all started because we always said we would do another one, but Ewan moved to America, I was living in London. We just never got it together,
Sure.
And then in 2016, I had a big crash and smashed my legs up really badly.
Yeah, I heard that.
And it was brutal crash, and I had all these cages around my leg, and it was just awful. And it took me 2 years to sort of get back on my feet.
Yeah, I was going to say, in terms of mentally, would that kind of, like, did you have a kind of a fear, especially doing these long ones? And some of the roads that I've seen in the clips of the Long Way Up, some of the roads don't look the best. So is it like?
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I was lying in the hospital bed, and that's, Ewan had found out, and he thought, Christ, we haven't really seen it. We haven't seen each other, and that kind of brought us back together. But I remember lying in the hospital bed after I had like this 7-hour operation to make sure that I didn't lose my leg, and my other leg had to be pinned together, and it was just a mess. And I remember waking up the next morning, and I remember looking at myself, and I'd broken my hand as well, so I had 3 limbs in plaster. And I remember looking at myself and feeling really sorry for myself, thinking, this is just, if only I'd left the hotel 5 minutes earlier, or 2 minutes later, this would never have happened, and all this rubbish that you go through. And then I realized there was someone else in the room, and I looked over, and there was this guy in the next bed, lying in the next bed, and he was in a terrible state, and I mean, really bad.
So you start
and I remember looking at myself, and I remember looking at myself, thinking, looking at my injuries and thinking, actually, this isn't so bad, really. I actually became quite cheery and thinking, actually, this is all right. And the surgeon said to me, look, Charlie, he said, all I've done is I'm just a carpenter. I've just put you back together. He said, the rest is up to you, and you can decide whether or not to stay where you are, or leave that behind and move on. And I decided to move on, and thought, and I'm going to use the motorbikes as a goal for mentally and physically to use it as something to focus on and to get better. And then I hooked up with Ewan, and we hadn't seen each other for ages, and he came in and stayed for the weekend, ended up staying a month at the house because he was working here in London. And we, of course, started talking motorbikes, as you do, because you're best mates. And then we started talking about doing another one, Long Way Up. And we'd always spoken about it. And we said, let's do it. And we got Russ and Dave along, who've always helped us make these shows. And then Russ said, well, look, why don't we try doing electric? And we went, yeah, okay. And stupidly and naively, Ewan and I said, yeah, that's a great idea. And then, cut to a year later, we're down in Argentina with the worst winter ever, and freezing cold snow, having never really ridden the bikes because they're prototypes. And Russ and David got these 2 pickup trucks that were electric, and no one had ever ridden those either. They were prototypes as well. And so we were all sitting there scratching, and winter really doesn't do batteries any favors. So wow, that was a big thing.
I'd say so. So just for anyone who isn't aware of the Long Way Up, you guys traveled, yourself and Ewan McGregor travel from the southernmost tip of Argentina all the way up through South America, then up through Central America, and then out into Los Angeles. That's where you finish up, right? Like, what a journey!
Much, an amazing journey. And if you love riding overland, or driving, or bicycling, or busing it, or training it, whatever way you do, I mean, that's one of the big ones. Going down through Africa, going from South America up. I mean, it's a pilgrimage almost.
Yeah. What kind of challenges did you kind of encounter? Because I'd imagine, like, the fact that you're doing it on electric motorbikes as well, I mean, there's an extra challenge, because obviously, like, okay, like, let's say if you're driving around London or driving around New York or somewhere, there's going to be places where you can charge these. I can't imagine when you're in the middle of Peru or Bolivia that like there's this charging point for an electric Harley Davidson.
Oh yeah, no, listen, for sure. I mean, you know, there are electric fast charging points everywhere in America and
Yeah,
Europe, and so I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, lots, and you can pretty much go anywhere you want, you know. But you get to the whole of South America, the whole of Central America, and all of Mexico don't have any,
yeah,
and so we had to rely on the goodwill of people
yeah.
to plug in every evening, to plug in, to charge up overnight, and because there's no fast chargers, it took about 11 hours or so to charge the bikes instead of 40 minutes. And so yeah, and so we were really concerned about that. And then because it was really cold, we weren't getting the mileage that we thought we were at the beginning, because the cold makes the batteries not last as long. And so that was all thinking, how are we going to do this? We're just never going to get there. But one of the things that was really amazing about it was that no matter where we went or what we did, we stop and somewhere for lunchtime to top up our batteries, or to sleep somewhere. We would say to people, would you mind plugging in? And they would say, what are you up to? And we said, well, we're doing this trip up to Los Angeles, and they go, what, on electric bikes? And we go, yeah, on electric bikes. And well, what bikes are they? And we said, they're Harley Davidsons. And they would just look at us and start to laugh. And they go, what do you mean electric Harley Davidsons? You know, and so that was great. So what was interesting was that you know, it was a very different experience, because you were trying to plug in to people's houses or businesses or restaurants or you know, or B&Bs or whatever it was. But not only were you plugging your bike in, but you were sort of plugging into those
Looking
people's
into their
lives,
lives.
because you'd kind of broken the ice about, you know, that it was electric, and that we were going to America. They were fascinated and saying, well, come on down. And then of course, you know, in some places we were in some places that was you know, was quite poor in places and stuff like that. So we always paid for our electricity. It doesn't actually take very much. So you can charge a Harley Davidson live wire from your plug overnight, and it'll cost you about £1.20, £1.75 to fill,
Which is
and that'll
unreal,
give
isn't
you
it?
about 130 miles, 140
Wow.
miles. That'll give you.
That-
So it's pretty good.
Yeah, and like, say comparing to, because I know you use the BMWs on the other
Yeah.
adventures. So in terms of, like, in comparison, what was driving the electric Harley like compared to the BMW, which is a lovely bike as well?
No, it was very different. You know, the BMW, you know, you could go much longer distances because it, you know, it had a big fuel tank and stuff like that, and you could camp a little bit easier because you didn't have to worry about the charging of things. But I think one of the interesting things about riding an electric bike is that you don't have that big engine noise. So your connection with the road is much greater. So you can really feel the road much more because you haven't got that thing. So and it was, I felt less tired at the end of each
Yeah.
day because of, you didn't have the noise. You know, you could be riding up alongside each other and you could just chat to each other
Oh,
as you go
really?
along on the road, but there's no noise. And then I remember one time we pulled over because Claudia was doing a drone shot, and we pulled over to the side of the road, and there was this bunch of llamas there. It must have been 20 llamas, and they're all just standing there. They're very pretty as well.
Yeah,
They've got these big eyes and big
yeah.
eyelashes, sort of blinking at you. And they didn't go anywhere because we pulled up and didn't make any noise. So we suddenly realized what it must be like, because you were affected a little bit more like you would if you were riding a bicycle. So a headwind would affect you a little bit
Yeah.
more. Going uphill a lot would affect you a little bit more. And that was a bit like bicycles. So when we met bicycles along the way, we could feel for them a little bit more about how they went. But I do remember one time we were going up, and we were right up in the Andes, about 12,000 feet up in the mountain, really high. And we were moaning because, you know, it was cold and we were going uphill and it wasn't great for the battery. And we were wondering when the downhill bit was coming and all this kind of stuff. And then at the distance, we saw this racing bicycle, just powering along, this guy just screaming along. And as we got closer, we realized he had one leg. and he
No
was just
way.
motoring up this hill at 12,000 feet, with no air, and we stopped him and said, what are you up to? And he goes, he said, I'm training for the Paralympics to compete in them, and then for this year, which is heartbreaking
Yeah.
because he never got to
No.
go, and he's going next year now. I found out, but he lost his leg from the hip in a car crash.
Okay.
And he sat there and was in despair for a while, and it took him a lot of rehabilitation and stuff like that. And I suddenly felt this huge connection with him because I'd gone through, because I'd had two crashes. I had that one in 2016, then another one in 2018 where I really, really messed myself up there as well, and broke a lot of bones on that one and had a head injury. So I kind of understood in a small way how difficult it is to come back, and mentally and physically.
Gotcha.
And this guy was just a hero. He just sat there and he was just, and I said, well, do you cycle up in the mountains a lot? And he goes, yeah, no, I cycle up here every day because it's good for training, because I'm doing high altitude training. So when I get to Japan to do the Paralympics, it's almost at sea level. So it'll be like drinking pure oxygen, he said.
Yeah, you get all the white,
you get all
blood
the
cells, isn't it?
yeah. Oh, and so it was just funny because moments before we were moaning about the stuff, and then thinking, well, God, this guy, fucking hell, that was impressive,
Yeah. No,
So
that's
there was
good.
lots of moments like that, and that's the great thing about all these journeys, And he was fascinated that we were sitting on electric bikes, and so, and then we both, all of us, he went off his way, we went off our way, and we'd all had this kind of cool experience,
What a life experience, though, isn't it?
It was awesome. There was so many of them as well. I mean, one time we were going in through Costa Rica, and Costa Rica is an amazing place. I mean, they first light bulb that they ever turned on was renewable energy.
Really?
That they turned on. It was hydroelectric, and 95% of the energy that they burn is renewable. And they don't have a military, so the money they spend on the military, they spend on renewable energy and education.
Gotcha.
And it's super, and such a cool place, so beautiful. You've got to go. I mean, these huge jungles just hanging over these beautiful beaches and warm water. I mean, it's just lovely. And anyway, so we're going along. We saw this big solar farm where they're popping up everywhere now, and so we pulled in to sort of see how. I had no idea how a solar farm worked, and the guy let us in, and we plugged in. So we were plugging into the sun.
Oh my God.
So we were seeing having a look at how the solar system worked and how they fed it into the power system. And I was looking up at the sun beating down on these things, and you could almost see the cable going into our bikes. And we're thinking, wow, that's free energy.
That's so cool. Yeah. And it
just
goes to show where we're going. Where is next? So you've done Africa, you've gone all through Europe and across over that side. Now you've gone up through South America. Where is the next adventure?
Oh, it's funny. I mean, when you do these big adventures, you always talk about you always talk about another one because it's difficult to finish the one you're on. Each of these big journeys have their lifespan, and as you get towards the end of it, you're starting to look forward to going home and all those kind of things. But part of you, if someone said, "Oh, look, let's just turn around and we'll go back," you go, "Yeah, let's do it." And so I think you start talking about another one in order for it to be easier to finish the one you're on. You think, well, we can finish this one because we've got another one. So we spoke about doing long way down under. We thought we might do.
That would be cool.
Or long way Scandinavia. Or I mean,
I'm coming the next time.
Come with us. Yeah. Come with us. We'd love it.
Stabilizers.
Yeah, exactly.
But listen,
we'll get you up, and we'll get you as a full-on adventure rider within a couple of weeks. No problem.
It sounds unreal. Listen, thank you so much for speaking to me. I literally couldn't thank you enough for doing it. I cannot wait. You're actually making me go and get Apple TV so I can actually watch this. I swear to God.
Well, listen, the app is on everybody's. If you've got an Apple phone, the app is there anyway.
I just went to Samsung.
Just click on it. Yeah. Oh, well, just download the Apple app, and there's no excuse.
Yeah,
you download the Apple app, click on, and you'll probably get a month's free anyway. So So just, crack on. There's lots to watch on there as well.
Yeah, I bet.
Apple TV, everybody.
Get your Apple TV. Listen.
Yeah, and guys, if you watch it, then hopefully we have more of a chance of being able to do another one.
Yeah. Well, listen, I like this. This was so eagerly anticipated, and so many of my buddies were saying, "Oh, the long way up's coming out. The long way up's coming out." So.
Oh, awesome. Well, listen. Thank you for your time, and
thank you.
And it's been great fun talking to you. It's lovely. I can't believe that you were the enemy.
I know. It's crazy, right?
It's just, yeah. I was always terrified. You guys were always. I reckon you were feeding that you've been fed steroids or something.
Hey, that's a secret.
Sure.
Hey, you're a great guy, Charlie. Thanks so much, buddy.
Right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye now. Bye.
Thanks, bye, John.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Thanks. Bye.